Today's lesson is about drawing your own stained glass window. You don't ever have to draw pictures of things. You can do simple abstract design following the rules of symmetry or mirrored balance, and I'm going to show you how to do it easy. Different kinds of symmetry are as follows. Anytime you have a line going down the center and one side matches the other, that's just a single line of symmetry. It's formal balance. You can have a line of symmetry going across, going down. You can also have diagonals. The way we do it in our classes is I just say 4-quadrant symmetry. So you have a line of symmetry down the middle and a line of symmetry going this way down the middle. Then all 4 quadrants will match one another. That's the easiest way. There is also rotational symmetry, where you have a line of symmetry going across, but there's a point in the center. When you rotate upside down, one side is going to match the other. This one's a little bit trickier. And to move on to something like this, first start with 4-quadrant symmetry. And I'll show you that in just a moment. When we do our designs in our class, I always say to start out with about 25 to 35 pieces, somewhere around there, which this is around that. This is a little bit higher on the piece count, but we do about half pieces clear and then half are with colors. We say up to 4 more colors, and that's types of glass really, because you can have all kinds of different blue glass depending on the type of glass, and you can have, you know, all the other different colors along with it. But more than 4 colors plus half of them being clear ends up being a little bit littered with color. And so keep it simple. There are some basic rules that you have to follow anytime you're doing any kind of stained glass design. Design has to do with break lines. So every line that you draw is called a break line because all your glass has to be cuttable. That's rule number 1. The glass pieces have to be cuttable. Seems like an obvious thing, but if you draw your break lines in wrong, there's going to be some problems later because you won't be able to cut your pieces. The second rule is that your project has to be sturdy. Putting break lines in properly ensures that you have a sturdy project. This project here has a major flaw in it, and it has to do with the break lines. The first major rule is that you never want to have a break line that goes from one edge to the other of your panel, because what will end up happening is your window will bend in half, and that is any break line going from one edge to another, and that's even when you have border pieces. That's a little bit tricky too. You see windows that have that, but that's really not a good idea, because when you set up a project in a vertical way, all of the pieces are weighing down on one another, and it ends up putting stress on those break lines that go from one edge to another. And so always avoid having a break line that goes from one edge to another. There's a way that that could have been avoided. If they would have just taken away this line right here on their pattern, they would have what's called a support piece. Support pieces ensure that break lines don't go all the way through. It stops a break line from going all the way through. Another rule that you cannot ignore when you're designing in stained glass is pointed pieces. If you have any experience with stained glass, you know that if I have a piece of glass like this and I make score lines that go like this, and if I try and break this piece and this piece and try and make sure that I just have 2 pieces when they're broken, what will happen? The glass will snap here and here, here and here and here. I won't have a piece and then another piece. I'll have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces. Because glass does not break in that manner, what you have to do is make sure that anytime you have a break line that has points or shapes that have points in them, you always need to design something coming from that point. Or you can have something that comes up and meets that point. So a break line that comes up and around, like that. I've given you guys a sheet like this. This is a good way to plan anything that you're doing in stained glass is to start out with thumbnails. And we have an easy way to go about drawing symmetrical patterns so that all the pieces are cuttable and that they satisfy all the rules of stained glass. I am also including as an attachment this sheet. Now, these are our classroom requirements, but again, feel free. Use whatever glass that you would like. The other side, we'll talk about how to make full-size patterns. But what we're going to do first is we're going to start through, and you should print out this page first. And what I'll show you is how to start a symmetrical window the easy way. The first thing I'm going to do when I start drawing these is I put in my line of symmetry first. Then what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a support piece in here. You can have a diamond, you can have a circle, you can have an oval, and work up to the more complicated shapes. But then what I have to do is I have to make sure that the break line doesn't go all the way through. So I erase this. Now, what we're going to do, on here I have that you have put the support piece in, and then it says break up the space. Draw either a curved line or a straight line, because that's the way glass breaks. If you want to have cuttable pieces instantly, then this is the way the line should be drawn. Don't draw any scribble lines, don't draw any zigzag lines, just to start. Then you're going to draw either a line to a line or a line to an edge. So now, these are our lines, and every line that we draw is a break line. This is our edge. And so we're going to do either curved lines or straight lines, and whatever you do to one side, you do to another. That's symmetry. Now, I could go in 4 quadrants, or I could just draw whatever is on one side and then the other. I could ignore this line altogether. So I'll just start drawing. So let's just start drawing some curved lines. And I'll draw like this. So I'm going a line to a line, line to a line, line to a line, line to a line, line to an edge, line to an edge, line to an edge, line to an edge, line to a line, line to line, line to line, and line to line. So you get the picture. Line to line, line to line, line to line, line to line. Now these don't have to be good. They don't have to be perfect. You don't have to use a ruler when you do thumbnails. They're just to get ideas. It's always good to draw small before you start going bigger. Line to line, line to line, line to line, line to line. What you don't want to do is you don't want to start drawing edge to edge lines, because every single one of these lines like this all the way across, these are going to break. These will bend. So even though you've probably seen windows that have these kind of frames, if they are hanging vertical in a window, like in front of a door and things like that, they may have some interior support inside of them to keep them from bending. Because I can assure you, I just can tell you from experience, I've made a large door window, front door window, that had these borders in them. And over time, this lower started bending because I didn't know at the time how to put interior support. And I didn't really know the basics of design because I was just first starting. Let's suppose you want to do it this way. Say you want to do a window that goes like this. How about we go into kind of a weird fancy shape. These are our support pieces. So let's erase. Once you start breaking up the space by either drawing a line to a line or a line to an edge, everything is instantly cuttable. So let's do something like this. It's a gentle curve, gentle curve, gentle curve, line to an edge, line to an edge, line to a line, line to a line, line to a line, line to a line, line to an edge, line to an edge. So everything is already broken up. Now, if you look, I don't have perfect symmetry here, but when I draw them, that's going to be different. So I'm going either a line to a line or a line to an edge. Line to a line, line to an edge. And so now, when I've broken up enough of my space, I could count them if I wanted to by doing something like this and then figuring out however many pieces these would be. And then I can stop, or I can keep going. If you really want to make intricate pieces, you can. To make the full-size patterns, here is the other side. This is the easier part too. Whatever line of symmetry that you decided to have, if you wanted to just have one line of symmetry, be it this way or this way, or if you decided to do 4-quadrant symmetry, you're going to take a full-size piece of copy paper and you'll fold it. This is the easy way because you're creating your line of symmetry already. Fold and fold. You just match these up. And then when you open them up, you already have these lines of symmetry. If you've done 4-quadrant symmetry, you can draw just in one quadrant. Or if you've done one line of symmetry, you can draw on one side. So what I've done here is I've broken up the space. So I started with a line right here. So if you've done a diamond in the center, you can do a straight line here. This will probably end up being more like an oval. And then you're drawing a line to an edge. If you have a fold, that's considered to be a line. If you have another fold over here, that's considered to be a line. So you break up the space. If you want to copy any of the thumbnails that you've done, you just look to see what you've done in just this space right in here. And then you can transfer it to one of the quadrants here. Once you've drawn your shapes, your lines in there, then you take it to the light table and you make sure that your paper has been folded backward so that when you turn it over and you draw onto the other side, onto a blank side, that when you open it up, it'll be the right sides. So if you freehand it nicely. I have half my pattern here. Then when I fold it backward and put them on the light table, I'll be able to see the other sides. So then when you open it up, you will have 4 perfect quadrants. To do rotational symmetry, where you have one side that matches the other that way, is rotated on the center point. What you would do is you would break up the space just like I did. I treated this as my line of symmetry. This is my center point. I started drawing either a curved line or a straight line. I did all curved lines on this one. What I'm going to do, I'm going to take it to the light table here, and I'm going to make an extra copy. Now I take my 2 copies of this and I put one behind the other, like this. And I know they don't match up, but we'll figure something out as soon as we are done tracing. So now I have this whole area in here that needs to be taken care of. So I can do a couple of things. I could continue this line like that. Do the same thing. You can freehand it or you can try tracing it. And then maybe I'll do the same thing over here. I'll take it. So now I have a symmetrical window, but this is rotationally balanced. This is rotationally symmetrical because one side and the other side are matching. As long as you've taken care of all of your pointed pieces, and as long as all of your pieces are cuttable, this will work. Here are things that you want to avoid. If you're not ready for tiny pieces, don't draw pieces that are too tiny, because then you might have trouble holding them, or the paper may come off a lot. You want to avoid really long, narrow pieces, because those tend to crack. You can break them up, but you want to keep them, about, I would say, 1/2 inch wide, at least. You'll find out. Sometimes you have to really break them up into little sections in order to get them to work, because they will crack. Long pointed pieces, lots and lots of them, even though it looks really cool on paper, will end up being some trouble when you start to cut glass. Reason being, long narrow points are very, very hard to cut. Usually what you get is you get them breaking off right about here. As well, foil gets in the way. The foil starts to all come into one right here, so you get a big huge blob of solder right about right here. So you have to be very, very careful. You want to minimize the number of points that come together as one piece. Long, narrow pieces at an edge are also a little bit harder too, if you have any kind of pieces that go right along an edge. They're not only hard to cut, but the foil takes up a lot of the space right at the point. And then when you're done, what you've got to do is you number all of the pieces. And so everything gets numbered, and I usually number from left to right, from top to bottom, and then you can do your color coding. So whatever you're trying to do as far as your clear pieces go, I treat them as the background pieces. So if I've got 19 pieces, which is under what our piece count would be for this, I'm going to try and do 10 and 9. So 10 clear and 9 of the colored glass. So I treat the background as my clear. So then you start putting C's for clear. So that's 8 pieces. I'd like to do clear here and here. Then the rest you can take up with other colors. Since I only have 19 pieces, using 4 more colors might end up looking a little random. I could use one color here, another color here, and then maybe one color here and one color here. So I could do that. So that's 1 color, 2 colors, 3 colors, 4 colors. But you don't want to just start littering colors around. That ends up looking random, and random in stained glass is pretty much what you want to avoid, at least if you want to design and have it look really nice. For balance, you want to take similar pieces. If this is going to be turquoise, make all of these turquoise. Say if you had a centerpiece, you might want to turn that one into turquoise as well. This person decided to do turquoise here. They also did they went off balance a little bit. They did diagonal symmetry. So they did orange here, turquoise here. To balance that out, they put orange on their corners and then turquoise around where the circles are. So your eye is always moving around, but they're spreading all of the colors around equally. So they've got orange right in here, orange in here, orange at the corners to lead your eye outward, and then turquoise at all of the circles and in 2 of the centerpieces. The rest of them are clear. By taking these drawing tips and putting them into practice, you will be able to learn all of the different ways that glass breaks and doesn't break. You can use these when you're starting to design your own windows. It's not as difficult as you think, and it gets easier with every project you make.